Hello, hello, and welcome to the course of material science and manufacturing process. And in this course, we are talking about. In the last class, we have started our second topic of this course, that is manufacturing process. And in this process, first we need to learn about foundry or casting. So in this lecture, we will see about introduction to the casting, what is pattern, and what are the pattern materials. So these things we will see. So let's start our lecture. So so in this lecture we will be talking about what is pattern, what are the pattern materials, etc. This is our 13th lecture and this is module 3. So let's start our lecture with lecture objective. So in this lecture we will understand about casting, means what is casting, how the basic casting process has been operates. So we know about how the basic casting process operates. We will know about pattern. We will get an insight about what are the pattern materials used in generally. So this process, a process that is based on the property of the liquid to take up the shape of the vessel containing it. This process is mainly based on the property of a liquid, that is, it takes the shape of the container. Using this property, in the liquid state, the metal is poured into a container, and upon solidification, that metal will take the shape of that container. So this container is known as cavity. A cavity of desired shape is made, and which contained in mold, and the whole process is carried out in foundry. Now, this is the ancient process. So casting is the most ancient process. Okay, it is started 5,000 years ago, and this is the first manufacturing process. And for example, here the 50-ton cannon in 17th century can be is made by using casting only. See, this type of cannon are historical days. These type of cannons are made using using casting. Now it can be used for making of arrows, coin, knives, etc. And this is the world's largest cannon, that is situated in the Jaipur, and this is made by casting. So why the casting is important? Because a job of 5 mm diameter and 10 mm length, this from this to a job with a hole of 2 mm meter, 2 millimeter diameter hole, and which is made of very hard material, can also be made by casting. And parts which can have very complex shape or very complicated shape, these can be made by casting. So now, in casting, very complex shape of any complex or intricate shape, those can be made by using casting. So casting is a process that is that creates that creates the that creates very complicated shape. So now we can see casting. We have seen the casting before, in case of such as this ice cream cones. So in the casting we can control the size and shape of the cavity or the mold. We can control the mixture composition, we can control the temperature, we can control the cooling time, and we can carefully remove it. So this is casting. So what are the requirements of the casting? The main requirement of the casting is to cavity of desired shape, that is called mold. So mold is first requirement. Second requirement is molten metal. Our second requirement is molten metal. Third requirement is proper channel to fill the molten metal. So that proper channel is named as gating system. So for casting, the requirements are cavity of desired shape, that is mold, and secondly, that is our molten metal, that molten metal and the properties of the molten metal, this should be good. And thirdly, we need to know about proper channel. We need to find out the proper channel to fill the molten metal. We need to find out the proper channel to fill the molten metal. So that is it. And the basic casting process, this basic casting process, how the process work, we have seen in the you have seen in this MSMPL lab. Now here also we can see this is one half of the pattern. Now this half of the pattern is placed over the flux. The flux, that is all our box, is known as flux. That flux is placed over the first pattern, and now this pattern is poured is filled with the, this box is filled with the molding sand, and this molding sand is rammed, and this is our cope press, this is our cope plate. Okay, now this is cope or upper part, and the lower part, that is drag. And this is your the second part of the another half of the pattern, and flux is also placed over the second part, and other part of the mold is also filled with the sand, and that is inverted, and this is called your drag. This is your drag. Now above the drag we just put the cope, and close this using a pin, and we just add another thing, we add a gating system here also. By this gating system means by this sprue and runner, this is sprue, this is runner, and this is pouring basin. By this we just put the molten metal inside the mold cavity, and that molten metal will take the shape of the mold cavity in the liquid state, and we just left that mold cavity to for solidification. We just left the molten metal for solidification. After the solidification occurs, the solidified casting of our desired shape, that is like this, the solidified casting of our desired shape can be found. So this is how the basic casting process work. Now for the basic terms what are used in the casting, there's a first pattern. What is pattern? Pattern is nothing but it's a replica of the desired part. So what is pattern? Pattern is the replica of our desired part. Next is mold. Mold is a container with a cavity within, and it is divided into two halves. First is cope and second is drag, and third one is gating system. Gating system is nothing but it's a network of channels that deliver the molten metal to the cavity. So pouring machine to the mold cavity, the network of channels, this network of channel is known as gating system. So these three things are very important in case of casting. So what are those three things? Those are pattern, mold and gating system. So in pattern, what is pattern? Pattern is nothing but it's a replica of our desired shape. So now we will see the basic steps. What are the basic steps? First, for casting, pattern making is important. So pattern making means we have to select the first we know the desired shape. That desired shape came from our design, that is engineering drawing. So as per that engineering drawing specification, we have to make the first we have to make the pattern. Pattern can be made of various material, and pattern making is another subject to learn. So first pattern making is important. Secondly, mold making. After the pattern is made, next we make the mold. Mold making means by using molding sand or any other molding options, we can make the mold. And after mold making, we have to melt the material, melting the metal and pouring. So melting and pouring, third step, and fourth step is cooling and solidification of the metal. So after melting and pouring, metal is cooled and solidified. Metal is cooled and solidified. So cooling and solidification of the metal has been done. And third, cleaning of the casting and then inspection. So fourthly, after that solidification of the metal occurs, we just clean the casting and we do the inspection of the casting. These are the whole step of the process of casting or foundry. Now we will study all of these steps one by one. First we are studying about pattern. So pattern, what is pattern? Pattern is the desired product that has somehow different in dimension than the actual part to be manufactured. So that is used to form the mold cavity. So what is pattern? The definition will be, pattern is the replica of the desired product which has somewhat different dimension than the actual part to be manufactured, and it has used to form the mold cavity. It used to form the mold cavity. In the pattern we have to study about, in the pattern or pattern making we have to study about what are the material used, what are the types of the pattern, and what is the pattern allowances. So till now we understand one thing, that there is a pattern. So that pattern is used to make the mold cavity, and that is the replica of our desired shape. But in the pattern some of the dimension variation is there. That dimension variations are known as pattern allowances. Those pattern allowances are given for specific purpose, and we will study those purposes also in the pattern allowance part. But in this lecture we will study about what are the material used for making the pattern, and we will see the function of the pattern. Okay, or requirement to be for pattern material, we will see the first, we will see the material used and how to select those materials for specific purposes. So for being a pattern material, the requirements are, the pattern should be easily shaped, worked, machined and joined. The pattern should be easily shaped, worked, machined and joined. This is your first requirement, that the pattern material should be easily shaped, worked, machined and joined. That is your first requirement. Second requirement is, the pattern should be resistant to wear and corrosion. Pattern should be resistant to wear and corrosion. Third, the pattern should be resistance to chemical action, or chemical affinity of the pattern should be very low. Pattern should be dimensionally stable. The pattern should be dimensionally stable. That means the dimension should be similar to our desired shape. That is, our pattern is dimensionally stable. Next, the easy availability. The pattern material should be easily available. The pattern material should be easily available, and it should be very economical. So first of those pattern materials are, we will discuss about the pattern materials now. So first and very highly used pattern materials is wood. Wood can be available very easily. Wood is available very easily. It has low weight, low cost, and it can also be shaped very easily. So this type of pattern or wood pattern can be shaped very easily, and more than 90% of the casting, it is mostly used pattern. That is, in more than 90% of the cases in the casting, wood patterns are used. So what are the added advantage? Wood absorbs the moisture, so the distortion and dimensional change may occur, and so that's why it has relatively lower life. Hence it is suitable for small quantity of the production. So wood casting, the pattern materials is very small, very pattern materials has very small life, so it is used for small quantity production only. Now next type of the pattern material is our metal is used for large quantity production for the closer dimensional tolerances and longer life. That means closer dimensional tolerances means the dimension is very close to our desired part, so that close dimension is possible in only in case of metal. And if we use the metal, so to make metal pattern, there is a pattern that is called master pattern. That master pattern is always made of wood. So that master pattern is made of wood, and that master pattern, from that master pattern, what is done from that master pattern, the metal, from using those that master pattern, the metal is casted. The metal is casted very precisely, and after the casting is done, we can get our pattern. And this pattern, this metal pattern, is used for a various number of for large quantity of the production, and it can have longer life. So in metal pattern, as a metal pattern, what is mostly used? Aluminium is mostly used as a metal pattern, and other material can be also used, such as cast iron and brass, but aluminium is mostly used as a metal pattern. Now another type of the pattern can be made of plastic. Due to plastic has low weight, and it has easy formability, and it can give smooth surface finishes, and it can has a good durability. So so that is why plastic can be used. And also there is an advantage of using plastic, that plastic does not absorb any moisture, so it is dimensionally stable, and corrosion resistance can be seen in case of plastic. So for plastic, it is low weight, easily formable, and smooth surface finish and durability can be used. So plastic do not absorb moisture, so it is dimensionally stable, and it has corrosion resistance also. So that is about plastic. So plastic is of lower weight, easier formability, it has smooth surface finish and durability, it does not absorb any moisture, so it is dimensionally stable, and it has corrosion resistance. So that is why plastic material is used. Now after the plastic material, polystyrene can be used as a pattern material. Polystyrene is an expandable pattern material. That means the polystyrene can evaporate whenever we pour the molten metal in the polystyrene, and the cavity can be formed by cavity can be filled by molten metal while by evaporating the polystyrene from the mold cavity. So in this case of using polystyrene, we can see the use of polystyrene in case of investment casting, in case of lost foam process. This type of the in this type of the process, we will see the polystyrene pattern. So in polystyrene, it changes to the gaseous state on heating, and disposable pattern, hence that is suitable. These polystyrene patterns are suitable, so they are very useful in case of single casting. So when the molten metal is poured into the cavity, polystyrene transform the gaseous state, transform to the gaseous state, and this is mostly used, this polystyrene is mostly used in case of small and complicated shape casting. So this is about metal pattern material. So basic step, first this pattern making step, that this step we are studying. So as for our this lecture, we are concerned about only the first part, that is your pattern material and how to select them, what are the requirement for the pattern material. So pattern, what is pattern? It is a replica of the desired product. Next, the requirement to be a pattern is that pattern should be easily shaped, worked on, machined and joined. It has resistance to wear and corrosion. It should have resistance to chemical action. It should be dimensionally stable, and it should be easily available and economical. Some of the pattern materials such as wood, metal, plastic and polystyrene that are discussed, and some advantage and uses of these pattern materials have also been discussed. So that is it for today. Now thank you. I hope you enjoy this lecture, and if you have any problem you may ask in the live class. Thank you.